Hi guys, welcome to ANIMEized. This is the English translated version of the novel Throne of Seal. The novel differs slightly from the Chinese animation or donghua. If you want more of these videos, please smash the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. Enjoy and have a blessed day.
Amidst a shimmer of silver light, Han Qian vanished into thin air, and caier also disappeared into the air in an instant. The four of them launched their attack, while one protected longhaochen. This was true teamwork. Facing the blue fire phoenix, the blue skeleton was no longer as calm, and the chanting of incantations became noticeably hurried. It pointed its staff toward the ground. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In 3 ear-piercing buzzes, 3 massive ice crystals with a diameter of a meter suddenly burst out from the ground, intersecting as they headed toward the blue fire phoenix. At the same time, a layer of icy blue light instantly spread out from the blue skeleton's body, forming a transparent blue shield. Boom! 3 thick ice crystals shattered simultaneously, and the previously pervasive chill in the corridor disappeared in an instant. Lin Xin's blue fire phoenix attack was indeed terrifying, and the intensity of the heart of fire flame was clearly greater than the blue skeleton's ice. But the main difference lay in their spiritual power. The blue fire phoenix ultimately couldn't advance further. It turned back with a low cry, heading back toward Lin Xin. With a flash of silver light, Han Qian was the first to launch an attack. Her shield of giant god swung down like a giant axe, using the power of the spirit furnace's spatial portal. Her attack arrived almost instantly, striking fiercely against the blue skeleton's shield. The space silver crystals obtained from the auction had ultimately been refined into 2 crystals that Han Qian could embed, but she could only attach 1 for now, otherwise, it would exceed her usable range. Nevertheless, after adding 1 of the space silver crystals to the shield of giant god, it was still elevated to the legendary level. With this strike of the shield, there was a faint glimpse of a huge and terrifying silver figure behind Han Qian. Amidst a fierce explosion, the blue shield shattered with a resounding crash. However, the blue skeleton was no slouch. In such a disadvantageous situation, it suddenly crouched down, moving close to the ground as if gliding on ice. Using the shield to cushion the impact, it evaded Han Qian's strike. At the same time, a ring of pure white ice suddenly expanded, forcefully pushing Han Qian away. At that moment, Han Yu had also arrived, his entire body radiating a golden red hue, as if he had entered a special state, and he swung his crimson gold heavy sword fiercely, like a golden red hurricane sweeping toward the blue skeleton. Squeak! A sharp sound came from the blue skeleton's mouth, and a wall of ice instantly appeared in front of Han Yu. However, in the next instant, the ice wall shattered under Han Yu's crimson gold greatsword. A ring of white ice formed at Han Yu's feet, then exploded suddenly, enveloping his body in a powerful freezing aura. However, Han Yu, covered in crimson gold, seemed to have entered an invincible state, and he ignored the freezing effect on his body, continuing to strike at the blue skeleton with his heavy sword. The blue skeleton was finally at a loss, and the flames of its soul in its eye sockets flickered intensely. It raised its staff upwards, and instantly covered itself with a thick layer of ice armor. Despite its formidable magic abilities, the blue skeleton no longer possessed the same formidable melee prowess as the red skeleton. Even with its ice armor, it was still sent flying by Han Yu's strike, and even its staff was split into 2. What's even more terrifying? The crimson-red aura on Han Yu's heavy sword seemed to have a special stickiness, and at the moment the blue skeleton was sent flying, it paused for a moment. Next was Han Yu's time to shine, his blood-red heavy sword striking repeatedly. With each strike, a terrifying red aura would envelop the red skeleton, and its ice armor only lasted for 3 strikes before shattering with a resounding crash. Han Yu's final strike went directly into the blue skeleton's shoulder, splitting its body into 2 halves. Caier, concealed in the shadows, didn't make a move. Since Han Yu had already delivered the finishing blow to the blue skeleton, there was no need for her to act. Longhaochen also gradually recovered from the previous coldness, though his face was still somewhat pale. The blue skeleton's strike on Longhaochen had been quite terrifying. But fortunately, he possessed the holy fire brought by Yating, as well as the support of solar fire and the heart of fire flame, coupled with the holy light protection that comes with the brilliant holy armor, which allowed him to neutralize most of the explosive force. Even so, it still took Longhaochen nearly 20 seconds to completely expel the cold sensation. The entire battle didn't last long. But defeating this blue skeleton was not an easy task. You see, in the real world, Longhaochen could single-handedly take on 7th-rank powerhouses. Yet, just now, they had gathered nearly everyone's strength to deal with this blue skeleton numbering in the hundreds. If it weren't for Lin Xin's blue fire phoenix significantly weakening the blue skeleton's power, winning this battle would have been even more challenging. On the other side, Chen Yi, who had been chanting spells, had stopped, and in that very moment, 3 gates of life had quietly opened behind her. The incantation was interrupted, and those 3 gates of life disappeared with it. This is the powerful effect of the time-stack spirit furnace formed after the fusion of the substitute spirit furnace and the time spirit furnace. Of course, she can only use this ability once a day. Fortunately, there isn't too much backlash. Triple summoning, for a summoner, this is almost godlike power. However, Chen can't fully unleash its power right now due to her own reasons. The shattered body of the blue skeleton gradually emitted a blue halo, and a slightly sharp sound echoed in the air. Guardian number 1 reporting to the master. Its body, which had fallen to the ground in 2 pieces, suddenly floated up, transformed into 2 streaks of light and headed straight for longhaochen. Just like the red skeleton before, it also merged into longhaochen's eternal melody within his chest. The gem on the eternal melody pendant is in the shape of a white skull. And now, on its skull's surface, apart from the red flame, there was also a cluster of blue flames. It was at this moment that suddenly, the Tower of Eternity seemed to tremble slightly, and longhaochen and his companions clearly felt the ground shaking. Everyone quickly gathered together, alertly observing their surroundings. A gentle golden light radiated from longhaochen's eternal melody pendant at his chest. And wherever the golden light touched, it miraculously dispelled all the illusion and haze in the air. The soft, golden light rippled through the air, making everything clear. Right in front of longhaochen and his companions, a massive statue appeared before their eyes. Although it was just a statue, but when the 7 of them looked at it, they felt a vast and endless majesty, as if it were an epic figure. The statue was about 10 meters tall, standing silently there, wearing a magnificent black robe that looked lifelike. On the black robe, there were shining golden runes. Beyond the robe, there was a white cloak, in stark contrast to the black robe underneath, with the hood of the cloak pulled over the head, making the face of the statue appear in shadow, so its features couldn't be clearly seen. In its right hand, it held a staff that was even longer than its height by 2 meters, and the staff was made up of 3 colors intertwined: black, white, and gold. These 3 colors intertwined, black representing pure death, gold representing sacred light. As for white, it seemed to be related to the summoning power of a summoner. The 3 colored metals coiled around the staff, forming this magical staff. At the top of the staff, there was a giant crystal, carved into the shape of a skull, pure white all over, almost like an enlarged version of the eternal melody pendant. Looking at this statue, everyone was amazed, even though it was just a statue, and everyone knew it wasn't real. But they were still overwhelmed by the profound wisdom, majesty, and grandeur emanating from it. Although longhaochen had always refused to accept that he was the successor of the necromancer saint and the cataclysm of undead, Illisec, he still paid his respects to the statue with a knight's salute. He never liked necromancers, but he had to admire this ancient powerhouse, just from the Tower of Eternity. It was evident how terrifying it must have been in its time, likely on the same level as the demon god emperor. Congratulations, my child, you have passed the first test. Do you like the gift I left for you? The 12 guardians were my protectors in ancient times, and every one of them was a supreme being. Unfortunately, human lives are finite, and in the end, I could only let them continue to exist as undead. This is one of the most precious resources I've left for you. What you faced earlier was their power suppressed. As you continue your journey, with each test you pass, the power of the guardians will also gradually recover. Keep moving forward, my child. There will come a day when you will make my 12 guardians' glory shine once again. A pure white beam of light emanated from the skull gem at the top of the staff, forming a white pillar of light in front of everyone, with a diameter of about 3 meters, emitting a faint spatial fluctuation. Lin Sin muttered. This necromancer saint is really stingy. We've all passed the first test, and he doesn't even give us much of a reward. Han Yu chuckled and said, What more do you want as a reward? Without the first test of the Tower of Eternity, could our spiritual power have improved so rapidly? We're still far from reaching the 6th rank now. Besides, we've gained skills and experience, and we have 2 guardians. Didn't the necromancer saint's message say that the guardians can recover their strength? Just think about it. If the red skeleton and the blue skeleton we encountered had increased their spiritual power, they could have used even more powerful skills. That would have been a terrifying prospect. And this is just the first level of the Tower of Eternity. For us, being able to come here is luckier than possessing an artifact. After all, we can't yet wield artifacts with our current cultivation level. But the Tower of Eternity can continue to train us, enhancing our overall strength. To Han Yu's words, everyone has a feeling that they are convinced. They nodded in unison. Longhaochen said, Let's step into this pillar of light, and we should be able to enter the 2nd level. What do you think? Should we give it a try? Wan Yuanyuan said. Captain, it's up to you. However, I think Ines shouldn't go. She just used up all her spiritual power. It wouldn't be wise for her to go on an adventure now. Longhaochen thought for a moment and said, How about this? You all stay here, and I'll go ahead to scout. With Hao Yu here, no matter what happens, I can return quickly. Hao Yu was lazily lying down about 100 meters behind them, and Longhaochen didn't let it participate in the previous battle. The longer they spent in the Tower of Eternity, the more Longhaochen cherished everything here. If it weren't for the fact that they might face even greater danger in their next actions, he wouldn't have chosen to gather everyone here to defeat the blue skeleton, thus obtaining the final test of the first level. Stepping forward, longhaochen entered the white divine light, bathed in its purity. He was surprised to find that his previously consumed spiritual power was actually recovering rapidly, and in a flash of white light, he had appeared in another place. He had just arrived on the second level of the Tower of Eternity, and longhaochen was surprised for a simple reason: he had no sense of solid ground here. Before him was a hazy white landscape, with columns extending forward on both sides, but under his feet, there was no solid ground, only an illusion of clouds and mist. He was currently within that white light, only need to step out of the white light, and you will officially enter the second level of the Tower of Eternity. Tentatively, taking one step forward, stepping on the white clouds and mist, in the next moment, longhaochen couldn't help but exclaim, because he clearly felt his body plummeting instantly. A strong sense of weightlessness suddenly struck. With a flash of white light, the surroundings dimmed again, and the feeling of solid ground instantly returned. But longhaochen was surprised to find that he had reappeared in front of his comrades, and he had returned to the first floor hall of the Tower of Eternity. What's going on? Longhaochen was slightly stunned. Boss, is the new place dangerous? Why did you come back so quickly? Han Qian asked curiously. Longhaochen shook his head gently, and stepped back into the white light. The white light flashed, and in the next moment, he reappeared on the second floor of the Tower of Eternity. He had a vague understanding now that this second level probably required the use of flight abilities, because if the first level prohibited flying, then this second level probably prohibited landing. This time, he had learned his lesson, and he spread his forewings behind him before stepping out of the white light's range. As expected, relying on the flight ability of his spiritual wings, he didn't experience the plummeting sensation this time. Instead of rushing forward, longhaochen silently assessed his surroundings. He was surprised to find that after arriving on this second level, the aura of death had significantly diminished, while the aura of light had become much denser. However, even with his perception, he could only explore a distance of less than 100 meters. It seemed that there was a powerful soul blockade here. Undoubtedly, to pass the second test, they still needed to follow the columns on both sides, and continue forward to face the second-level trial of the Tower of Eternity. Vaguely, longhaochen had already understood some of the situation on the second level, and had a general idea of what the second level's trial entailed. With his forewings lightly spread, a golden light flashed, and longhaochen summoned Yating. After Yating had merged and evolved with the holy guiding spirit furnace, she was no longer afraid of the oppressive aura inside the Tower of Eternity. Her 6 wings unfolded, and she floated lightly behind longhaochen. Don't go ahead, just support me from behind, longhaochen instructed Yating, and then floated gently forward. 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, until he floated about 10 meters away. Suddenly, the white clouds and mist below surged abruptly, and then 6 figures appeared simultaneously in 6 different directions around longhaochen, and then rushed towards him like lightning. They were still skeletons, but they had become smaller in size and had bone wings on their backs. Transparent membranes connected their bone wings, and they moved incredibly fast. As soon as they appeared, they were like 6 white lights piercing towards longhaochen. Longhaochen remained on high alert, and he wasn't flustered by the sudden attack. He immediately activated the skill with his left hand holding the shield, and a golden light curtain suddenly enveloped him. Guardian Knight's 6th level skill, Shield Wall. This skill could provide all-around defense for himself, or large-scale defense in front of him, although it can't be used in conjunction with Divine Guard Block. Its own defensive ability is also incredibly strong. Amidst the piercing metallic noises, the 6 white figures rushed in quickly and retreated just as quickly, and their retreat was rhythmic, as if they were coordinated as one. As a result, longhaochen's sword strikes on the ground, which had originally been as fluid as flowing clouds, were noticeably restricted in the air. However, he was quite excited at the moment, because he knew that he and his companions lacked experience in aerial combat. Undoubtedly, the Tower of Eternity had given them this opportunity. Of course, longhaochen's combat capabilities were limited in the air, but he wasn't completely helpless in this first trial. 3 beams of white light simultaneously shot out from Yating, landing on 3 of the white skeletons as if she had eyes on her back. Then, a powerful pulling force dragged them towards longhaochen. Strangely, although Yating was using the power of the holy guiding spirit furnace, the effect was no different from when longhaochen used it himself. When enemies were pulled or dragged, it was always directed at longhaochen. Being caught by the holy guiding spirit furnace, these white skeletons naturally lost their main advantage of agility and speed. Faced with the powerful attacks of the ripples of light, they only lasted less than 5 seconds in front of longhaochen before they turned into fragments. The other 3 flying skeletons were similarly shattered by longhaochen in the same way, and the first trial was passed. However, what disappointed longhaochen somewhat was that killing these skeletons didn't give him the high-purity spiritual energy or any new skills. It seemed that at this point, the trials had become more straightforward. Longhaochen had no complaints about this, as receiving only 10 points of pure spiritual energy didn't have much effect on him anymore. After reaching the 6th rank, Longhaochen opened his spiritual aperture, awakened the physique of the Divine Guardian, evolved Yating, and synthesized the Spirit Furnace. All of these had greatly improved his overall strength and his ability to absorb light elements. As a Divine Guardian, Longhaochen could proudly say that he had the strongest affinity for light elements in the world. During the 4 months of seclusion, his internal spiritual power had astonishingly increased by over 1,000, and his internal spiritual power cultivation had already broken through 8,500. He was steadily approaching the 7th rank. Apart from him, although the spiritual power of their companions had been increasing at a good pace, the gap between them and him was getting wider. Even caier was no exception. After all, her Divine Guardian physique had not awakened yet. After passing the first trial, Longhaochen didn't continue forward, but instead returned to the first level, and recounted his experiences and judgments in detail. As everyone reached the 6th rank and gained their spirit wings, it was crucial to improve their aerial combat abilities, and with such a rare opportunity, they naturally couldn't afford to miss it. With each increase in their strength, their ability to survive missions would also increase. After careful consideration, Longhaochen immediately made a decision in the exploration of the 2nd level, except for Qin Yi. Everyone would undergo an aerial combat assessment based on their individual abilities, and they were not allowed to use Spirit Furnace abilities or mount abilities. As for Qin Yi, she would naturally train her lifelong summon, McDull the Little Pig. This was a massive hall filled with darkness, spanning at least 1,000 square meters, with a height of over 10 meters, and octagonal walls surrounded it. The hall was dimly lit, with only clusters of purple flames burning at each of the 8 corners, casting an eerie and incredibly dense atmosphere of darkness in this mysterious hall. Right in the center of this dark hall stood a man. His black hair cascaded down his back, but his eyes emitted a crimson glow. He stepped forward and threw a punch. Terrifying waves of dark spiritual power erupted instantly, with every punch, kick, and even the simplest movements, causing explosive bursts of air. The atmosphere around him seemed to explode with each action. The material of the hall was unknown, yet it remained unaffected by his destructive power. It stood firm despite his onslaught. As he released bursts of spiritual power, purple light flickered, revealing his appearance with difficulty. His handsome face bore a stern expression, naked to the waist. With each attack he launched, his body was covered in dark purple scales resembling fish scales. His eyes glowed even more crimson. When his aura reached its peak, suddenly, a figure silently appeared behind him. The figure was tall and slender, draped in a black robe, with black hair falling on both sides of the face, making the face impossible to see. Sensing the sudden threat from behind, the topless man suddenly turned around, launching a punch towards the figure that had appeared behind him. This punch contained the immense combat power of his peak-level state, and its terrifying power surged to the maximum in an instant. The entire central area of the dark hall lit up because of his punch, and it seemed like all the spiritual power he had unleashed before had concentrated in this moment. The twisting sensation from spatial compression seemed capable of tearing the hall apart at any moment. However, the sudden appearance of the figure remained motionless, facing such a terrifying aura. He merely raised his hand slightly, and with a slender and fair finger, he pointed at the fist that seemed to dominate the world. Puff! It seemed as if time had frozen in that instant, without any explosive sounds, and the slender figure, which appeared so graceful, didn't emit any spiritual power fluctuations. But in the next moment, the strong and topless man flew out like a cannonball from a magic cannon. With a thunderous crash, he collided with a distant wall, and a burst of purple light spread out from him. Thud! His body, stuck to the wall, fell back to the ground. The slender figure, hands behind his back, spoke in a gentle voice. Being too rigid leads to easy breakage. Being only rigid and not flexible, you will never reach the extraordinary realm. This voice, even though it was gentle, if familiar with him, would result in only 2 things, either prostration before him or sheer terror. The man who had fallen to the ground slowly got up, but he didn't stand up. Instead, he knelt there, bowing respectfully. Father, your injuries seem to be healing well. Why haven't you left yet? Aren't you going to pursue the marriage you fought so hard for? The slender figure tilted his head slightly backward, allowing his long hair to sway behind him, revealing his incredibly handsome face. Fengxiu, Demon God Emperor, Fengxiu. Meanwhile, the one kneeling by the wall, with a trickle of blood at the corner of his mouth from the previous heavy blow, wasn't that Bao, the crown prince of the Demon Dragon clan, who had suffered a severe blow in Dream Paradise while contending with Longhaochen? Lowering his head, Bao said faintly, I have no face to marry you. Demon God Emperor Fengxiu said calmly. Can't you bear such a small setback? Bao raised his head, looking at his father. But this isn't just a setback. Several demon god heirs fell in Dream Paradise, and our ultimate mission failed as well. Although father has absolute authority, the turmoil this time was too great. Even Huang Shou was extorted for 10 dragon crystals. The blame falls entirely on me. I know the immense pressure father endured to protect me. I'm a sinner of our clan. I disappointed your expectations. Demon God Emperor waved his hand and said, Enough, there's no need to dwell on this. As a leader, one should not dwell on temporary gains and losses. Thinking too much often leads to more troubles. How can one achieve great things with a distracted mind? In human terms, don't sweat the small stuff. Your loss this time isn't unjust, and it was mainly due to bad luck. You didn't make any mistakes throughout the entire process. If I were in your shoes, I wouldn't have done any better. It's just that you happened to encounter a once-in-a-millennium god scion in this realm, and precisely at the moment he awakened. That one sword of his, even if he tried hundreds or thousands of times, he wouldn't be able to replicate it. Father, I can't accept it. I can't accept losing to a weak human. What kind of god scion is he? Bao's eyes turned bloodshot. In front of others, he always appeared calm, but only when facing Demon God Emperor would he reveal some of his true nature. Silence. Feng Xiu's voice became stern for the first time. Even though he was the heir to the Demon God Emperor, Bao, sensing his father's anger, immediately prostrated himself on the ground, not daring to utter another word. Demon God Emperor said coldly, If you maintain this mindset, then the next time you encounter him, you will lose to him again, and perhaps even more miserably. I can't always come to your rescue. Do you know, this time I tore open space to rescue you all, and the detestable nemesis of Demon God and the Demon Hunting Squad took the opportunity to kill 3 of our clan members. They were sending a warning to me. They are all true maniacs, and there's more than one being like nemesis of Demon God. Humans are becoming increasingly difficult to deal with. As my successor, if you can't acknowledge the strength of humans, then you won't be qualified to inherit my throne in the future. I understand, you're not satisfied, you believe that human is much weaker than you. But have you truly calmed down and carefully analyzed the reasons for your failure? Apart from the fact that he's a god scion, and unleashed a powerful strike in a critical moment, were there any other reasons? Bao raised his head, looked at his father. Because he received support from Dream Paradise. His attributes are compatible with Dream Paradise. Later, he teamed up with the spokesperson of the nature goddess to oppose us. Demon God Emperor said casually. So, why was he able to do this? Bao hesitated for a moment, but couldn't come up with an answer. Demon God Emperor said in a deep voice. Because of wisdom. We demons often become overly confident due to our own strength, which is why you suffer this defeat. Whether you postpone the wedding or not, now you should know what you need to do. Yes. What? The chief knight Han Qian stood up abruptly, his face filled with astonishment. In front of him stood a tall knight, standing respectfully with bowed head. Han Qian's breath became noticeably uneven. These rascals, what do they want to do? I thought they could stay put for so long and show maturity. But instead, they made a big move out of nowhere, shocking everyone with a single act. How long have they been gone? The tall knight said. About half an hour, Han Qian said. Go, bring them back for me. Tell them I command them to return. The tall knight hesitated and said, Chief Knight, is this appropriate? It goes against the rules. Demon Hunting Squad operates independently. And even the Alliance can't easily mobilize them. Moreover, everything they've done is within the rules. Han Qian said angrily. What nonsense rules? If something happens to those kids, the entire Alliance will be in chaos. Go now, yes. The tall knight dared not disobey Han Qian's command a second time. He turned and headed out. Just as he reached the door, Han Qian suddenly spoke. Come back. The knight was surprised, stopped in his tracks, and turned back to face Han Qian. Han Qian walked out from behind his desk, pacing back and forth in his spacious office, his brow furrowed. After pacing back and forth more than 10 times, his brow finally relaxed. He let out a sigh, muttering to himself. That boy and that girl are already 16 years old. They've been in seclusion for so long, they should have made significant progress. A young eagle can never become a powerful figure soaring in the sky, under the constant protection of its parents. Longhaochen, you brat, you must come back alive for me. That's right, just now, the knight standing in front of him brought astonishing news.